What is going on, everybody? Welcome in to the Week 7 NFL Power Rankings show. Another week full of upsets, crazy games, and the parity around the league really does feel like it's at an all-time high, which definitely makes these power rankings interesting. I'm going to do my best job here in this video to rank all 32 teams around the league, how good I think they are moving forward. Before we do get started, if you could do me a real quick favor, please do hit that like button down below. It really helps me out, tells YouTube that you enjoy the content, and to push this out to other NFL fans like you, which really helps me out. While you're down there, make sure you subscribe so you can tune in for more of my NFL analysis coming up just around the corner. And I want to remind you that if you are going to football games, other sporting events, concerts, get your tickets on SeatGeek, the #1 ticketing app out there, the best user interface, great customer support. You're going to be getting the best prices on SeatGeek anyway, but now by using promo code FranchiseGuy, you will save $20 on that already great price tag, and you'll support my channel in the process. So it's the best app, the best prices, you support my channel. That's promo code FranchiseGuy on SeatGeek. Let's go ahead and get into it, starting at the bottom. A new team coming in dead last year. It is the Carolina Panthers, who did have a little bit of a boosted effort, a little bit of that ding-dong, the witch is dead mentality. Came out and played some hard defense early on, but with PJ Walker in there, this was about as sorry of an excuse for an NFL offense as you will ever see. I don't think I've ever seen more screens in an NFL game from a single team. This offense is the worst in the NFL. They really struggle to move the ball. I don't know when Baker's coming back. I don't even know how much that matters. It is bad here in Carolina, and this all just felt avoidable. What a lost season for the Panthers. Then at 31, the Houston Texans on bye this week, which means 2 weeks in a row that this team did not lose a football game, so that's good for them. Then at number 30, the Chicago Bears are going to climb up a spot because I do think the Panthers have shown to be worse than them. I will say this defense really fights for Matt Eberflus, and the offense has been better the last couple weeks. They're at least moving the ball through the air at a higher clip. Still some consistency issues, and their drop back passing game is far from where you want it to be. So not some world beater here, but the Bears are competing, to say the least, but a toothless roster definitely showing as they've really fallen off from that 2-1 start. And then the Washington Commanders at 29. I mean, yeah, they escaped by the skin of their teeth against the Bears. I mean, this defense is still really leaky and undisciplined. They were lucky to only allow 7 points in this game with some good situational defense, but 3 goal line trips for the Bears resulted in 0 points in this game. This game easily could have looked a lot different for the Commanders. Carson Wentz is hurt now. I don't even know if that's an upgrade or a downgrade. I don't know how much it matters. It is just a mess here in Washington, even though they won this week. So that rounds out my bottom tier of #1 pick contenders. And just a note for the fans of these teams already turning their eyes towards the draft, I might be starting the NFL draft analysis a little bit early this year. So much excitement for this draft class. Gonna be getting an opportunity with basically a week in Miami with not a whole lot to do. So I might get into these quarterbacks early, so you might be able to look out for some early 2023 NFL draft quarterback rankings in about a month or so. So just make sure you're subscribed so you don't miss that. But let's jump up to our next tier, and this is a very large tier, really trying to cater to the amount of parity that is in this league. We're going to be in this tier all the way up to our 17th team here, and this is the can't trust them tier. Teams that definitely have spoiler potential, but on a week-to-week basis, just very volatile in a lot of ways for most of these teams. So the Detroit Lions at number 28 on bye this week, hoping that bye week can bring some defense to this team. And then at number 27, I really struggled with this ranking. I knew that whoever I put here was going to leave the fan base feeling a little bit jobbed. And I didn't really think the team that the three teams I was deciding here, they all won this week. And I really struggled with this one. It had to be someone. So when that happens, I just go with my gut on who I think the worst team is moving forward. And to me, it's the Atlanta Falcons. But I really don't want this to be a negative thing. They technically dropped down one here, even though they won. I will say, if you want a reasoning for it, it is this defense that, only gave up 14 points this week, but 3 turnovers from the Niners. The Falcons get a scoop and score touchdown in this game. I just don't look at this defensive roster and expect, 14 points allowed and a defensive touchdown to be the norm for them. Not trying to totally discredit their win, though, because I do buy into what Arthur Smith is doing with this offense. I did say coming into the year that he is a legit top offensive-minded coach, and what he's doing with an offensive roster that is just not very talented right now is really impressive. So I don't want to dog on the Falcons. It had to be somebody here. I still believe in the future of this team with Arthur Smith in charge, but a roster that just still has so much work to be done to it. Then we have the Pittsburgh Steelers jumping up 2 this week. I don't think a team had a bigger win this week than the Pittsburgh Steelers, because, not so much that, they unlocked the offense or anything like that. They might have a new quarterback controversy as Mitch Trubisky came in and played pretty well after Pickett was just kind of meh to start this game. But the resiliency of this team to come out with such a great defensive game plan to take away the areas of the field that Tom Brady likes to attack, and to have just such a great team win with their backs up against the wall was just a great reminder of how amazing of a head coach Mike Tomlin is, and that a Mike Tomlin head coached team is not going to go down as some bottom 5 team no matter what. They do have hopes to get TJ Watt back soon, and they're getting these receivers working much better in this offense. So they are going to jump up 2 after taking down one of my top teams in the league this week, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, as heavy underdogs. Then the Seattle Seahawks at number 25. I really do buy into what this team has going on offensively. I posted a clip from my Fully Inflated Football podcast, a good opportunity to remind you guys to check out my podcast. There is a link in the description below for my second YouTube channel for the podcast. But I posted the clip about Geno Smith and the types of throws he's making, the pocket presence. I really do think he's arrived at least as a starting quarterback in the NFL. Pair that with DK Metcalf, who did have a little bit more of a quiet week. And then, getting Kenneth Walker to replace Rashad Penny seems at worst a push. So I do buy into what this team is doing offensively. Defensively, on the other hand, a good game this week at home against an unprepared Arizona Cardinals team, only allowing 9 points. But I definitely don't expect that to continue. I think you're still talking about a Seahawks team that their motto moving forward is going to be, we need Geno Smith to win shootouts. And how sustainable that is, I still just don't know. So the Seahawks are going to come in at 25. And actually the Cardinals, who lost to those Seahawks, are still going to rank just ever so slightly ahead of the Seahawks. Yes, they lost. Yes, they were unprepared. And I'm not trying to become some Cardinals apologist. I still think Cliff has got to be fired. The fact that they extended him was a joke, along with Steve Keim. They bring in Robbie Anderson to fill the void of that speed threat for Hollywood Brown. Adding Robbie Anderson is doing the opposite of adding mental toughness to a team that desperately needs it. All that said, this is a team that is a week removed from forcing overtime against the Philadelphia Eagles. No one's beaten the Eagles yet. And a defense that's playing surprisingly well. They do get DeAndre Hopkins back this week. I still think the Cardinals are a better team than the Seahawks, even though they lost this week. They're called upsets for a reason. But at the end of the day, some decent points to defend why they might still be, the third best team in their division is far from where this team wants to be. So they're going to drop down 7. It was not a good week for them. Kyler Murray has also just been such an average quarterback this year. It's not just Cliff and the rest of the offense. So, yeah, just a lot of mediocrity from the Arizona Cardinals. Tough loss this week. Then we have the Cleveland Browns at 23, also dropping down 8 spots this week. And Jacoby Brissett has really gone back to being that backup caliber quarterback that we kind of all felt this team was going to have to persevere through coming into the year, right? Like, they come out and Jacoby, probably for the first 3 or 4 weeks, was legitimately pretty good. The last few weeks, not so much, especially this week against the Patriots. 5 turnover-worthy plays per PFF. He's holding onto the ball too long and just not playing like that quarterback he was early on. And that's when this team needs to lean much more into their defense. And that is the bigger issue for me, because this defense should be much better than they are. The zones are porous. If Myles Garrett isn't winning up front, which is a decent thing to depend on, right? But he can't do that every single play. This defense just is toothless at the end of the day, and they have way too much talent to say that. They can't defend the run. So more of the same thing, where even when Deshaun Watson gets back, I don't think that just automatically solves this team's problems. Still a competitive football team, but they're going through some things right now, to say the least. Then the New Orleans Saints at 22, really difficult team to know what to do with. This has actually been one of the better offenses in the league under Andy Dalton against the Vikes, the Seahawks, and this week the Bengals. They've had a really nice 2-quarterback system. Taysom Hill has been a legitimate weapon for this team. And they really hung in against a good Bengals team this week without Marshawn Lattimore, without Michael Thomas and Chris Olave and a lot of the explosive pieces on that offense. So I don't think this is a 2-4 football team. I think they're much better than that. Really big game this Thursday for the Cardinals and the Saints to, man, is it too early to say save their season? I don't know if it is at this point. We're in week 7 already. So again, I don't think this is a 2-4 football team, but they got to find a way to win some of these close games for sure. Then at number 21, this is where I have the New York Giants, and some Giants fans just hate the living daylights out of me right now. This is a 5-1 team. Some may have already clicked off this video just now. Look, these are power rankings, not standings. Do I watch the Giants and say that's a really good football team? No, I don't. They were getting outgained by the Baltimore Ravens, 400 yards to 150 yards this week. Into the fourth quarter, the Ravens take a 10-point lead, and just a spectacular series of events that let the Giants win this game. Now, there's some good things to say about the Giants, and I'm going to say them, but I just want to remind you, these are power rankings, not standings. And Giants fans, I just want to remind you, sports betting is legal in New York. If you're so confident that this Giants team is so good, go bet them as underdogs against the Jaguars this week. That's right, the Jags are 3-point favorites over the Giants this week. So the Desert agrees. This is a fraudulent 5-1 football team, and all it really takes is a Game Pass subscription to know that. Now, it's all about expectations, right? The expectations, if Giants fans shift them to, oh, this is a team that can win playoff games, you're going to get people like me saying stuff like this. If it's, wow, this is a really overperforming team that you can celebrate how great of a job Brian Daboll is doing, then it becomes fun. And I do enjoy watching the Giants do this. Brian Daboll has been a my guy of my guys on this channel. I called him the best head coach hire in the last 5 years when the Giants got him. I love Kayvon Thibodeau. He was my edge one. He's playing great. I loved Evan Neal. Good to see him playing better. There are sustainable elements of this team as I look into the future and when they build up this roster that I really believe in. But as for this year, I just don't see it. And if they lose to the Jags, it really shouldn't be a surprise to anybody. So they are going to get a +3 this week. I do think this is a surprisingly competitive football team. And I mean, this defense is a legitimately solid defense as well. So I did not think the Giants would ever find themselves ranked 21st when we looked at them coming into the year. So it's commendable that they've gotten to this point. But I'm also not going to be bullied into just ranking them higher than I believe that this football team is worthy of. And then at number 20, the Jacksonville Jaguars, the opponent of those aforementioned Giants, and definitely going to be a fun week to see play out as far as the power rankings are concerned, with me ranking them ahead of the Giants. But anyway, I do trust this Jags offense. I think Trevor is playing within himself and playing good football here in year 2. I like the play calling from Doug Peterson. I think this offensive line and the run game with these backs, my dude JaMycal Hasty, a big run this week. Like, this is just in general a very solid offense that I think you can trust that side of the ball. But defensively, starting to look much more like that defense I was worried about coming into the year, where Travon Walker is the second least efficient pass rusher per pressure rate in the NFL. He has got 1 sack this year. It came in week 1. And just looking like that raw developmental prospect that I questioned if he was someone that should have been picked with the number 1 pick. And you have now Shaq Griffin and Darius Williams in the secondary really getting abused. So defensively, definitely taking a step back this week, getting thrown all over against Matt Ryan, who has not been able to do that against anybody this year. So Jags staying put at 20 this week after just ever so slightly losing to the Colts. Number 19, I have the New England Patriots moving up 2 spots here this week. And here come the Patriots. They have established that team identity. Bill Belichick starting to feel a little bit like a Belichick coaching season. Slow start, make some adjustments, reshape the defense, and find a team identity and head into late October as a really difficult team to beat. And obviously Tom Brady's not there, but maybe he is in Bailey Zappi. No, I'm just kidding. Zappi's played well. I think they do go back to Mac Jones, and that's perfectly fine. But yeah, man, this team is just, they're running the ball. They are actually scheming open some really fun stuff with Matt Patricia and the offense. And defensively, how big has it been to get these rookie corners to step up? Obviously, Jack Jones, who I tweeted out is a top 5 just rookie in general this year. What a big surprise he's been. Marcus Jones, though, had a big week this week. This entire team is just keeping up with the Joneses, with 3 Jones in the secondary and their quarterback, Mac Jones. But the Patriots are coming, man. +2, dominating win over the Browns this week. Then the Denver Broncos at 18. Obviously, the narrative is about Nathaniel Hackett and this offense not being the explosive offense that we thought they were capable of being right away. And at this point, it just definitely feels like some stuff's out of sync. Russ probably overpaid for it at this point. But still thought he made some nice plays, and I don't think that offense is straight up terrible. Not great, though. Really not great. I don't think this team is getting enough credit for the defense, with Ejiro Evero looking like a brilliant hire, young defensive mind in that Fangio system. But unlike Joe Woods for the Browns and unlike Joe Barry for the Packers, who are a Fangio defense, I would even say the same about maybe the Vikings. Unlike that, you watch the Broncos and they're running stunts. They're coming up with creative blitz packages. They're not afraid to go man coverage. And that is the sign of a good defensive coordinator. So, yeah, they have a lot of issues with this offense. But this defense with Ejiro Evero is really fun to watch. You got Pat Surtain on the back end. Shout out to frickin' Baron Browning. I can't believe I questioned moving him to edge. He showed some flashes at off-ball linebacker last year, but clearly that athleticism is better used rushing off the edge. And shame on Ohio State for not identifying that. Makes you wonder how high this guy could have been drafted if he was kind of put into that Chase Young, Nick Bosa developmental mold at Ohio State. But yeah, I mean, the Broncos are not a bad football team. They were very close to beating the Chargers here on Monday Night Football. Then the Indianapolis Colts offense this week, finally looking like the version of this offense that I thought we might see from week 1. Paris Campbell, a bunch of targets in this game. Matt Ryan getting rid of the ball quicker. I don't know why it took so long for them to get to this, but it is certainly good to see them arrive at it. On the other hand, this defense is not what I thought it was either, like coming into the year. I think there's elements of this team that are trending up. You hope to get Jonathan Taylor back here soon. They have to solve their right guard after they've removed and reshaped this offensive line. Dennis Kelly at left tackle now playing pretty solid. So like they're figuring some stuff out. and I think the fire Frank Reich panic has resolved. But yeah, they still have issues on the defensive side of the ball and with that offensive line that I think are going to make some things hard for this team. And that rounds out that can't trust them tier and brings us into the top half of the league and teams that I think really should have playoff expectations at this point, or at least these are teams that I am putting playoff expectations on. And sure, you have teams maybe like the Giants who could get in the playoffs, but I'm talking about teams that expect to make the playoffs and maybe win a playoff game, potentially further. But this starts with the Green Bay Packers, who are dropping down 6 this week after losing to the New York Jets. It's impossible to even know where to start. Everything is broken in Green Bay. The sky is falling. The defense finally made adjustments, ran blitzes and man coverage in the first half, and then goes back to their old conservative self in the second half. The offense, the receivers can't get open. Aaron Rodgers isn't playing great. The offensive line's a disaster. The play calling is questionable. And then you look upwards at the front office, who did not make a move for a receiver this week, even though everybody knows that it's about 3 years too late. Brian Gutekunst should not be allowed to run another offseason for this team after his draft was criminal. 2 first-round picks, 2 second-round picks. You walk away with Quay Walker, who was terrible again in this game, a backup defensive tackle, and a wide receiver who can't catch with hamstring issues in a must-have draft, let alone the fact that they did not work things out with Davante Adams. I don't think that gets discussed enough. Look at the Niners. They've worked it out with Deebo Samuel, and he seemed to want out even harder than Davante Adams did. Davante Adams didn't make a peep. All of a sudden, they're like, okay, we'll trade you. Goodbye. Everything is broken in Green Bay. You still have a talented defense. You still have Aaron Rodgers and a coaching staff that I trust. I think this team will straighten some things out, but I just find it nearly impossible to see this team winning a Super Bowl, which were the expectations coming in. And it's just a damn shame. It's all just a damn shame. Then we have the New York Jets moving up 8 this week. And this is a legitimate football team. They have an embarrassment of talent across the board. This defensive line is about 7 deep with great playmakers. Quinnen Williams, just killing it this year. Sauce Gardner is playing like the best cornerback in football right now. He has been shut down. You got DJ Reed back there. These linebackers are flying around making plays. Quincy Williams and Quan Alexander. Mosley's been good in the run game. So defensively, Robert Saleh has figured it out. And I was so hesitant to question Robert Saleh's defensive coaching, but it reached a point where you kind of had to, but this is why we like Robert Saleh. He's got this defense clicking. Offensively, not as good this week, at least through the air, but they didn't have to be. They ran the crap out of the football in the second half. Zach Wilson didn't make any mistakes, and they just kind of bled out the Green Bay Packers that this was a better football team than. I don't know how you can watch that game and feel like the Packers are better than the Jets. Just the roster talent was at a disparity. So I believe in the New York Jets to be a legitimate team and a team that can hang against, playoff caliber teams. So yeah, the Packers are a mess, but the Jets are also very legit, in my opinion. Then we have the Las Vegas Raiders on bye this week. They're going to drop down a spot because we got a couple top teams getting their quarterbacks back this week. Then we have the Rams -1 this week, despite the win. As I mentioned, the Panthers offense, they conceded that game from the very beginning. The amount of screens that they ran with PJ Walker at quarterback was just laughable. And then they bench him, they go to Jacob Eason, he comes in and throws a pick. This was a gifted win. You feel good to get back in the win column, but I still don't believe that this offense, now losing Joseph Noteboom for the season, is going to be a world beater. They've got O-line issues. That much is very clear. Then the San Francisco 49ers, -6, and maybe I slept last Monday on the amount of injuries that this team has. Nick Bosa out. They lose Emmanuel Mosley for the season. Clearly, that defense took a step back this week. And, offensively, there's only so much pressure you can put on Jimmy Garoppolo. Played fine-ish this week, but the 2 picks, obviously not ideal. But that's just kind of par for the course with Jimmy Garoppolo, right? He's going to put the ball in harm's way a couple times a game. and everything else around them has got to be healthy and playing better. So I do think it's a big knockdown for the Niners this week, a game that even with those injuries, they should have been able to go into Atlanta and beat a team that they have the advantage over at the line of scrimmage. Then the Tennessee Titans on bye this week. Nice enough that they get to stay put at 11. And the Minnesota Vikings at number 10 are going to move down a spot again because some of these teams getting their quarterbacks back in Miami and Dallas, I think, are better football teams than the Vikings. But they're continue to roll. They're 5-1. It doesn't feel like they've really had a real game since they got dominated by the Eagles. So I think this is a very streamlined, average to above average team. The offense is solid. The defense is solid. Do I think either side of the ball are great? No. Do I think this is a team that can really hang against great teams? No, not really. But they're pretty consistent and are going to beat the teams that they should beat. So that's how they find themselves 5-1 right now. And I'm just kind of waiting till like week 10. I think they play the Bills just to see how they can hang against a team like that. But taking care of business this week for the Vikes. And then the Baltimore Ravens at number 9. They're going to drop down 4 spots this week. I do not know what to make of this Ravens team. I think this is a good football team. They move the ball seemingly at will. Lamar is generally playing well this year. Rashad Bateman, they've clearly missed him the last couple weeks for this offense. You expect him to be back here pretty soon. But the collapses that this team has had against the Giants this week, against the Dolphins earlier this year, there was another one in there. I can't remember who it was against, but I don't know what to make of it. This is a team that I generally think is well quarterbacked, well coached, and they have just been horrible in the last 10 minutes of football games. I think they clean that up, but I just don't know. So a -4 for the Ravens this week. And then the Chargers at 8, another team that I don't feel great about, but a tough win on Monday Night Football against the Broncos that really brought it defensively. I guess what I'll say is they're showing some really nice perseverance that I don't think this Chargers team has shown in the past. They went out there without Corey Linsley, who's sick, Keenan Allen, who this offense desperately misses, and no Joey Bosa still. And they found a way to win. The defense made adjustments. Herbert at least took care of the football, even though he was not playing a good game. And I don't want to dog on Herbert because I think he's still hurt. You just look at the ball and how it's coming off his hand, the Hail Mary attempt. Herbert definitely should, healthy Herbert definitely gets that into the end zone. I just don't think this team is 100% right now. Another team that's a little bit difficult to know what to do with, which I think you can really say about all these teams 8 through 16, but staying put at number 8 this week. Now, this one I think is going to be a pleasant surprise for Dolphins fans. I think Dolphins fans tend to think that I don't like them. I think getting Tua back, if we can assume that this offense is as is when Tua was really rolling before the concussion, and it does look like he'll be back this week, I think that Dolphins team is better than all the teams we've just previewed. I think that's a very good offense that is well run, and then a defense that is very good, that's been put in some tough spots these last couple weeks because of the quarterback situation. So I do think this Dolphins team is a really good team, and hopefully they can kind of resume that and not, have lost momentum, basically, because they had a lot of momentum before that to a concussion. But I'm going to show some faith in the Dolphins here. And then the Bengals at number 6. Look, Zach Taylor deserves some credit. He abandoned his atrocious scheme and came out in shotgun in every single snap other than QB sneaks this week. Love it. Absolutely love it. Joe Burrow just so much more comfortable in that type of offense, getting that ball out on early downs, getting ahead of the chains, leaning into the passing game just in general. You have Joe Burrow and these receivers. You should do that. And their run game is fundamentally broken. So if you can't fix it, just don't lean into it. And I actually think in making this adjustment, it made their run game better because it at least spread out the defense and created better numbers advantages, which is something I've been harping on Zach Taylor for all year. So this looked like a completely different Bengals team. It looked like a team that took a whole offseason to answer their questions, and come back with a new game plan. Completely different offense, but it absolutely worked, and I love it. And they have got to stick with it. And if they do, this version of the Bengals can be a really good football team. I mean, this defense didn't have the best week, and I hope they can get DJ Reader back because I do think they miss him in the run defense. But we know this is solid defense, and this offense with these playmakers, the Bengals, I feel the best about the Bengals right now than I have all year. And then the Bucs at number 5, they're going to come down 1 after losing to Pittsburgh. I guess what I'll say about the Bucs is, I ranked them number 1 coming into the year, and I think the upside for this team, I was just overselling it a little bit. I just think this defense isn't quite that world-beating defense. They're incredibly sound. They're solid. They don't have any true holes, but they also don't have any like game wreckers, I don't think. Doesn't feel like Shaq Barrett's been that guy. Doesn't feel like Vita Vea's been that guy. I guess Levante David, maybe. Jamel Dean, maybe. Like they have really good players. They're a really good defense, but are they a dominant shutdown defense? I don't know. Maybe not. Offensively as well, like some offensive line issues popping up. Brady he's got the lowest time to throw in his career right now, 2.22 seconds. He wants to catch that snap and get that ball out almost immediately because he does know that pressure is coming. So his play is entirely dependent on the play call being good, the receiver getting open, and a lot of times receivers winning contested catches. And a lot of times in this game, we saw Godwin come down with some really tough catches. I think it was Cade Otton had another one over the middle. Brady is so accurate that he's going to give those guys a chance, but you see it on the 2-point conversion attempt to try and tie this game. Tries a contested catch over the middle, and Chris Godwin unable to bring it down. So, the margin for error for this offense is just very, very slim right now, and there's just only so much Tom Brady can do about it. A frustrating loss, but I do think this is a team that's going to keep coming. They have a defense that's going to keep them right in games, and yeah, they lost this week. They got upset, but I still think they're one of the best teams in the league, coming in at number 5. Then the Dallas Cowboys. I told you guys this time was coming. I said, you're due for a loss with Cooper Rush. You're due for a week where the offense just can't hang against a good team. It happened. But I told you, as soon as Dak gets back, this is going to be one of the best teams in the NFL, and I do believe that. I think this is currently the best defense for sure, with the Niners as banged up as they are. And offensively, you definitely expect this to take a tick up with Dak Prescott getting back, Michael Gallup continuing to get healthier, the offensive line playing better. This Cowboys team is absolutely legit, and I'm actually excited to see what they can do now with Dak Prescott. And there's a lot of pressure here on Dak, by the way. After a lot of Cooper Rush talk, Cooper played pretty well. Dak is paid enough money that this is a Super Bowl team, especially if you put a franchise quarterback on it. There's a lot of pressure on Dak right now to come in and play really good football. So excited to see how he can handle that. And then I do have the Eagles in their own tier here at number 3. The only undefeated team in the league. I don't think they're the Bills and the Chiefs because they just don't have that offensive upside that, Mahomes and Allen bring. But that said, the Eagles are the most complete team in football. Howie Roseman is in a tier of his own as a general manager. The roster that has been constructed here is truly spectacular. Jalen Hurts continues to play just good football. I still don't think he's perfect. I don't think he's a great quarterback, but he's just been a good quarterback, which has clearly been enough for this team to be the best team in the NFC, an undefeated team, and a Super Bowl contender. Another good week this week against a really tough Cowboys team, defense especially. So Eagles, number 3, a tier above anybody in the NFC. And then Chiefs 2, Bills 1. No surprise there, I don't think. Maybe some Eagles fans want to be ahead of former Coach Reid and the Chiefs here. I just don't, if these two teams played, I think the Chiefs are favorites. But as for the Chiefs, and I feel like I always just gloss over these teams. As for the Chiefs, I will say you're down to, your 4th and 5th string corners in this game. Mahomes throws 2 picks in this game, and that was really the difference. I think they're right there with the Bills. I had a chance to win this game late. Seeing some panic about the Chiefs on Twitter, there's no need for panic. I mean, it seems quite likely that you have a good chance of beating the Bills in a rematch. These teams were very evenly matched. And it seems quite likely that the winner of that game will probably win the Super Bowl. So, yeah, they lost, but I'm not worried about the Chiefs. But I do think it is pretty clear right now that the Bills are the best team in the league. I think Josh Allen deserves the crown right now. He was the better quarterback in that game. Mahomes, more costly mistakes, and Allen made a few more big throws. Now, that gap is incredibly thin, but I want to give Josh Allen his credit. And I also want to give Von Miller some credit because he had 2 sacks in this game. I think he had 9 pressures. He was paid and brought in here to be the difference maker for this team that can help them get over the edge. And he showed up. I mean, you can't ask any more from a top edge rusher to get you 9 pressures and 2 sacks and a huge impact on this game. So I'm going to go Bills 1, Chiefs 2. And there are your power rankings for Week 7. Again, please do hit that like button if you enjoyed. Definitely drop a comment down below where you disagree. I'm sure there's going to be a little disagreement, as there always is. Really appreciate you for watching. Make sure you subscribe. Check out the podcast and the link down in the description below if you enjoy my analysis. But we'll see you guys for the next one. Peace out.